Good morning. From New York, we welcome you to the first DuMont Television Network affiliates meeting by Closed Circuit Television.
Morning, Commander.
Morning, Bob. How are you?
Just fine, Doctor.
Hello, Bob. How are
Dr.
you?
Goldsmith. Say, I think we better get ready for this meeting. I believe some of the fellows are here already, and I guess the others are about to arrive. I understand Dr. DuMont's going to stop by.
Well, we surely expect him. He ought to be in here any minute.
Well, good. This is going to be rather thrilling, isn't it, having a affiliates meeting in a closed-circuit arrangement?
Well, thank goodness, I don't think this has ever been done before, Bob. Do you?
Oh, look, some of the fellows are here already. Good morning.
Let's sit down.
Thanks a lot.
Sit down. Aren't you
Commander
gonna
Lloyd?
sit over by? Look, some of the fellows are here. There's Frank and Lyle and Mort. And this is a great way to take a stations trip.
Look, Bob, this is really something. To be able to have our affiliates right here in a conference without having to have them come clear from their individual cities all over the United States to New York to talk about some of our network problems.
Well, it sure shows what television can be used for beside a medium of entertainment. Television can be an instrument in running our business in America. Of course, it's got one disadvantage, which I'm just going to point out to you, Mort. This is the first time I think a station relations man ever took a stations trip, and the expense account will come from AT&T.
Well, with this one, we won't have to look over anyway to carefully scrutinize.
Well, I might as well go now. Yeah, this is really very exciting to see you fellows like this. Instead of airline stewardesses, I have stage hands, and well, it's another first.
Haven't you any preference?
Yes, but I'm not going to put it on the network right now. Another thing I've just come to mind. This is going to be about the first program where Hooper isn't going to be able, or Pulp, anybody else is going to be able to take a look at
That's
it.
right, Bob. There are no stations that are broadcasting this. This is strictly closed circuit, as I understand it. These
Yeah.
people are meeting in their individual stations to talk to us and talk with us and listen to our comments on color television, on network problems,
Most of the big
and,
problems are going to be.
and the lifting of the freeze and what we got to do to plan to get better programs out to the general public.
Yes, this closed circuit, incidentally, many of you fellows were able to participate in our recent closed circuit convention that we put on for a large manufacturer. Well, that was just a tremendous success. And we are more convinced than ever that here we found a brand new use for TV. The reports that came in from the user of our closed circuit have just been very encouraging and just been enthusiastic. Wish it were possible to read all of the interesting comment and the constructive comment that's come in on the thing. We know that we too will use this closed circuit idea more and more to talk to you fellas. In the past few months, confusion in the industry seems to have become television's trademark. There are matters that are of vital concern to you and to us. And these matters have been somewhat confused by conflicting policies and philosophies of doing business. And it's that reason that we've asked you to get together with us this morning and give you the opportunity of seeing the other side of the coin, perhaps, the DuMont story. There's the matter of color, as Dr. Goldsmith just mattered, in which there's considerable confusion. There are any number of other problems that have been brought about by these new elements that have come into our business, and we want to have the people in our organization who are properly qualified to explain just what the DuMont position is in these matters. Now, to facilitate the meeting, we've come across or come upon an idea which we think will make this a rather personal contact. We've installed a special telephone here, and we have a young lady, one of our nicest young ladies here, Miss Lynn, and Miss Lynn is going to take your calls and your questions. We hope you'll have many questions this morning, and we're prepared to answer these questions for you. Now, I've jotted this down here. We have Murray Hill 8, 1471. Call Murray Hill 8, 1471, collect, and just ask for the closed circuit meeting. And as your questions are received, we will forward them to those in our group here who are most qualified to answer the question asked, and we're going to give you straight answers, straight from the shoulder, and talk right at you. The keynote, the matters that concern the management of our network are going to be handled by Commander Lowy. We have Commander Lowy, of course, who I've introduced before, and I know Commander needs no introduction. Well, Commander has a message he'd like to give you this morning. So without further ado, Commander Lowy, Mort, I'll be out and try to get some of these phone calls and see if the
Okay, Bob.
Miss Lynn has any questions for us.
That's a swell job. Thanks very much. You're not a bit nervous, are you, Bob? Neither am I. Not at all. I'm so accustomed to this. I do it all the time.
This is the soberest station trip I think I've ever seen.
Thanks a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't seem that long, but in 1951, DuMont will celebrate its 20th year in business. I doubt that many of you were aware of this fact until now. To us, however, it marks an important milestone, and so for the past year, we have been working on plans to make DuMont's 20th year of extra significance in the industry. We had hoped to keep what we were doing top secret in order not to lose the impact of the accomplished fact. However, in view of what's happened in recent months, we feel that we owe it to you to let you see for yourselves why the telephone company allocation hit us so hard, and why we are determined to fight to the finish, not only to protect the investment that we have made in television over this 20-year period, but also the many millions more we intend to make in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the new DuMont Television Network building, and I'd like to take an instant to show it to you. These are the plans that I'm pointing out to you now, and they're very, very elaborate. At least elaborate enough to be completely efficient, and will incorporate an entirely new idea in television broadcasting. In this building, there are 8 studios of various sizes. Will you just take this? And I'll point to the largest studio that we have here, if you can see it on the screen. This building, without any pillars or posts, is 165 by 72 with a ceiling height of 30 feet. The elevators in here are so tremendous in size that we carry all sorts of scenery, elephants, horses, or automobiles. Other studios that we have here, this is Studio 6. This is 37 by 51. Studio 5 is 47 by 56. Studio 4, 34 by 52. And these rooms that you may see here outlined, rehearsal rooms, and here are dressing rooms for talent. Let's see, we've turned that the wrong way. Let's go on. Which is the next one? Here are the studios 3 and 2. The size of this one is 55 by 47, and this one 37 by 51. And general office space is allocated here, more dressing rooms, etc. This is Studio 1. This one is 49 by 86 with a 27-foot, 7-inch ceiling. Practically almost any type of show could be held in this studio with a great ceiling height and cameras spotted. As a matter of fact, most of these studios will have available, in as much as they're all under one roof, we'll have cameras, 3 and 4 camera chains, by merely borrowing one camera from one of the other studios that is not in use at that time. And this is the prop department. I don't know if the size are outlined here, but it takes up the entire lower floor of the building. There's 1,500 square feet, 900, and here we have 5,280 square feet, 900 square feet of storage, and so forth. Well, that is just to give you a little concept of what's in the works and what we're doing now. We're readying these under double speed to have them finished just as quickly as it's possible to do it. And to go on with this Now, from this, you can see that the entire plant has been planned with only one thing in mind: the production of outstanding television programs. On September 25th, the American Telegraph and Telephone Company handed down its allocations of intercity video connections for the fourth quarter of this year. Under AT&T Tariff 216 as a common carrier, all facilities must be allocated on an equitable basis when there are more customers than channels. Despite this very specific wording of the tariff, the cable allocation looks something like this. 160 hours was allocated to the National Broadcasting Company, 114 hours allocated to the Columbia, 49 hours to ABC, percentages 44.6, 31.8, 13.6, and to DuMont 36 hours, 10%. What we are asking for is a 25% required for each network, in all fairness to all, which would increase ABC's and NBC's to an equal proportion of the time allocated to the others. This is the phone company's idea of an equitable distribution of available time among four networks, but not ours. The obvious monopolistic condition engendered by the arbitrary allocation of AT&T prompted our complaint to the FCC. What we are fighting for, and will continue to fight for, is equal access to the channels of distribution of our programs. Without this opportunity of distribution, we would be in much the same position as a railroad train without a track. Without equal access to cable facilities, we could not compete with the other networks, no matter how good our programs or how rich. At this point, you fellows might say that what happens to DuMont does not concern us. But free and vigorous competition among as many networks as the nation can support is your best insurance for a profitable future. And that does concern you. Competition among networks means diversified, well-balanced, and continually improving programs. What would happen actually if there were only one or two networks operating in television? We all know that the relationship between a network and its independent-owned affiliates is one of interdependence. The networks need stations to distribute their programs and thus lower program and interconnection costs. And because television program costs are so high, stations need networks to supply high-caliber entertainment and public service programs of national interest they could not possibly afford on a local basis. Without free competition among four or more networks, what would your position be? What bargaining position could you hold if one or two networks were able to dictate what programs you must take, when to take them, and then dictate how much you would be paid for them? If this sounds far-fetched, remember that American free enterprise has always been based on equality of buyer and seller. There is a parallel situation in another entertainment field that all of us must keep in mind. I refer to the motion picture industry and a practice that was known as block booking. All of you will recall that under this practice, the independent theater owner, who is your counterpart in his field, had little or no control over the films he exhibited. The situation was of tremendous economic detriment to the exhibitors, and it took years in the courts to break the death grip of the major producers over the independent exhibitors. This is the monopoly situation that we are fighting to prevent in television before it is too late. By freezing the independent station operator from the monopolistic threat of any network, despite arbitrary cable allocations or any other factors, the station operators must be free to choose their programming to best serve the public interest as well as themselves. Under such a condition, that's the structure of the industry we are trying to assure. Another item of confusion has been the FCC's proposed ruling of October 5th. Let's set the record straight on this one, too. Under a temporary remedial measure, such as the Commission proposed, your income will not be adversely affected even though you take your program, and you will continue to be in a favorable bargaining position as long as there are four or more networks competing for your time. This can only be true so long as it is necessary for networks to compete for your favors. We're aware that many of you have been told that the Commission's proposed rulings and investigations are both moves in what has been termed the government's diabolical plot to grab control of the broadcasting industry. Now, you and I know this is nonsense. Those of you who were in radio back in the years of the 30s and the early 40s must remember the outraged howls of the networks when the FCC issued its chain broadcasting regulations. At that time, the Commission ruled that no station was or could be the exclusive outlet of any network, and that no network could force a station operator to take any program against its wishes. All stations, the FCC ruled, would be assured a free selection of programs from all four networks if they so desired. Now, does that sound like government taking over a business? This decision was fully in accordance with the desires of the independent station operators and eliminated the threat of block booking in the radio field. Nevertheless, the networks claimed that this was exactly the wedge the government needed to gain control of programming. We all know that nothing of that sort happened, and that the only result of the changed broadcasting regulations was that independent owners were left free to run their own stations. If ever the opportunity was right for the federal government to take control of broadcasting away from private owners, it was during the last war. Other industries were taken over by the government under wartime emergency powers. There's no doubt that a government so inclined would have lost neither the time nor the opportunity to take over an industry which provided so forceful an entry into the public mind and so strong a hold on public opinion. Yet broadcasting remained free and prospered. The entire record of the FCC since its creation as a body to implement the Communication Act of 1934 refutes the false contention that the government is eagerly awaiting an opportunity to slap the chains on this industry. And by its latest action to ensure a freely operated competitive system of television broadcasting, the FCC has again proved its interest lies not in the control of television, but rather in assuring that a healthy competitive situation will prevail in this industry. In this way, the public interest will best be served. In this way, the Commission is providing the incentive to all major networks not only to continue present operations, but to put into action large-scale plans such as DuMont has already instituted for expanding both program service and facilities. And now I find that Dr. DuMont has arrived, and it's with a great deal of pleasure that I present Dr. DuMont, who needs no introduction to this audience. Dr. DuMont. Alan, take it away.
Well, I've been asked to discuss the situation as concerns color. It's an old question that's been before us for quite a number of years. The original discussions on color occurred around 1941 when we were setting the black and white standards. And at that time, a color system that was proposed that was essentially similar to the one we have today. They were proposing a fewer number of lines, but it was the same deal with a whirling disc as we have today. In 1946, the subject was brought up again by the same network, that is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System, and they proposed at that time a color television system that was far superior to the one that was standardized on recently by the FCC. At that time, they proposed to use a very wide range of frequencies, and they proposed to use the standard 525 lines as we have today. Hearings were held at that time, and it was decided not to go ahead with color because they felt it was not ready. That is, the Commission felt it was not ready. It's interesting to note that in 1946, when CBS was proposing this color system, that they said that the present black and white standards were so inferior that it would be impossible to organize and get going a satisfactory commercial black and white system. The color pictures that they proposed at that time had considerably more detail than they were proposing for the black and white. Well, we had several years after 1946, and the color subject was brought up again by Senator Johnson of Colorado. And the commission asked for proposals on systems that could be put in the 6 megacycle band. Well, the CBS at that time proposed, instead of a very, very superior color system, a system that had much less resolution than the present black and white. The standards, as you probably know, that have been decided upon, you only have 405 lines in the picture as against 525 with black and white, which means that there's about 80,000 elements in the picture of the color as against 200,000 elements in the black and white picture, roughly a third the detail. Furthermore, instead of transmitting 30 pictures a second, as in black and white, the color system only transmits 24 pictures a second. What that means is simply this, that if you have a color picture with 40 or 50 foot Lamberts, as in many of the black and white sets today, you get a very bad flicker with the Columbia system. Furthermore, with the mechanical scanning disc, you are limited to a picture of around 12.5 inches. A 12.5 inch picture requires a disc of, from 28 to 30 inches in diameter, and it's pretty difficult to build a set with a much larger disc than that. At the hearings in Washington, just to show the utter nonsense involved in trying to convert a 19-inch tube, we built up a converter. This disc was approximately 5 feet diameter. The peripheral speed was over 200 miles an hour, and we had trouble getting the disc up to speed with a 4.5 kilowatt motor. So you can see just what the problem is when you get over 12.5 inches. Now, the industry, and we're, of course, a member of the industry, has been accused of not wanting color. Well, that, of course, is not true. We happen to be in all phases of the television business, and I think we're the only company that is exclusively in all phases of the television business. Other companies are in all phases, but they also make radios or refrigerators or washing machines or what have you. We have concentrated our efforts entirely to television. We have 5 production divisions in the company. We make cathode ray tubes. We make television receivers. We make television transmitters. We make oscillographs for testing the transmitters. And, of course, we have 3 owned and operated stations as well as the network. So that we are in all phases of the business, and we know pretty well the problems. As I said, it's utterly ridiculous that we wouldn't be in favor of color if we felt a system was available that was commercially practical. There is no reason at all why we shouldn't make color receivers as well as black and white. We're in the business to sell receivers. But we're up against the proposition that we just do not believe that the public will buy the type of receivers that you have to supply for the present color standards. We have been through the problems involved in adapters and converters for the present 8 million sets in the field. And in spite of what you hear, we think that there will be a very, very small percentage of the public that will ever either adapt or convert their receivers. I might just say that when we talk about an adapter, we simply mean the changes necessary in the receiver in order to receive the color transmissions in black and white. When we talk about a converter, we mean an additional device which is added to the adapter so that you can see the pictures in color. It's a very difficult job to go into a set and make the necessary changes either for the adapter or converter. We have checked with the underwriter's laboratory, and they tell us that the minute that is done in the field by local servicemen, you have no underwriter's approval on your receiver. as you had today when the receivers are sent from the factory. So it is extremely difficult to make this conversion. And you have to get in the set, you have to put in new deflection coils, you have to increase the sweep because of the higher voltage you have to put on the cathode ray tube, and there's many things to be done. And all this talk about extremely cheap converters, I think you will find when it actually comes out that the prices for these devices will be considerably higher than you see bandied about in the paper at the present time. Now, to get down to the FCC decision on color, they have not stated anywhere in their decision that the black and white system is to be stopped. In other words, the regulations still are the same as far as black and white are concerned as they were prior to the decision. All they have done is to make it possible for stations, if they desire to do so, to transmit color signals according to the field sequential standards, so that it's entirely optional with the networks, it's entirely optional with the stations, whether they transmit black and white pictures or whether they transmit pictures in color. We feel that it's going to be a considerable period of time before any great number of color receivers or adapters or converters are on the market. We don't, as I said before, we are pretty sure that there will be very few sold to the public when they see what they have to put on their set and see how it is going to look in the living room. That's as far as adapters and converters are concerned. We have been beating our brains out to try and figure out a decent color set using the scanning disc and still have it at a price. I think you should realize that you require everything in a color receiver that you need in a black and white receiver, plus of a lot of additional things. In other words, if you take your black and white receiver, you have to add to that in order to get color. You have to add a scanning disc, a good-sized motor. You have to increase the voltage on the cathode ray tube considerably because the filter disc takes away 90% of the light, so that you have an increased cost on the power supply. When you put that high voltage on the power supply, you're required to put a lot more power in the sweep in order to get the proper deflection. And of course, when you have done these things, you still have to add quite a complicated amplifier to synchronize the scanning wheel with the scanning wheel at the pickup point. And furthermore, when you have done all this, you have to use a much larger cabinet because of the large scanning disc. And having done all those things, you have a receiver that can pick up pictures in color. But you have to go further and provide some means of getting rid of the disc when you want to look at pictures in black and white. The scanning disc, there's proposals made to break it in two and get it out of the line of sight that way, or to slide it to one side. But regardless of what you do, it's an additional problem. And we feel that when color receivers are available, they're going to be approximately twice as much as far as the cost is concerned than the present black and white. That is one of the reasons that we feel a compatible system is extremely important in order to see color develop the way it should. With a compatible system, a station can transmit pictures in color, and they can either be received on a color receiver or a black and white receiver. The people with receivers today would not know the difference. The signals would come in just as well as they do now. So that means that a station can transmit color programs throughout the day, and present receivers can receive it. People that buy new receivers, black and white receivers, can receive it, or people that buy color receivers can obtain the pictures. That provides a method of growth which is not provided by the present system. We're up against a situation today where Columbia is talking about transmitting several hours of programs late at night and possibly in the morning, and maybe a half an hour or so around 6 o'clock. It means that a person buying a converter or a receiver spends a lot of money, and he just gets a few color programs, probably at times of the day that he couldn't look at those programs. I think if Columbia was really serious about this situation and wanted to develop this, that they should go on the air from 9 o'clock in the morning till 12 at night with color, and then at least we'd have some reason and a proper test of a color system, because then there would be at least a little incentive for people to buy these receivers. Now, I think you can see your problem in picking up, well, putting out color pictures. When you do it, whether it's a half hour a day or 2 hours a day, for a long time you're going to have practically no audience. It may be true that right at the start a few advertisers will come along just so they can say they're the first ones on color. But I do not believe it'll be a sustaining thing, and you will be transmitting to just a few experimenters after the first interest, first couple of weeks has worn off. Now, I don't know, Mort, whether I have covered this subject enough, or Doc, what have I left out? It's a little hard to know just what these fellows would like to know about.
My thought, Alan, is that the stations who are listening and watching you now are interested in what's going to happen to them. What would they have to spend if they wanted to change their studios over, assuming the FCC ordered them to broadcast in color? You pointed out they'd have no audience because there aren't any receivers, but from a physical standpoint, they'd have to make a number of changes in their present investment. Is that right?
Well, if they just take programs from the network, they don't need too much in the way of equipment. They probably need monitors and some control apparatus. If they're going to set their studios up, it's quite a sizable job to convert the cameras and the control equipment. I don't know as I want to put a figure on it, but it's probably a 20-25% or more of the cost of their present equipment in order to get a color on a proper basis.
Well, I'd like to ask one other question too, as it reflects on the outlying stations. Alan, how about transcriptions for the inland cities that do not have any cable connections and will not have for some time? If they were to broadcast color, they would have to use color films. And is there anything that you know of set up presently to do that?
No, the color transcriptions as yet have not been developed for color, and it's quite a job to do it. But I think probably after 2 or 3 years, it would be possible to develop equipment to do that.
Well, Tom,
Pretty expensive stuff, though, that teletranscribing in color. The movie industry doesn't do very many Technicolor films because of the cost of the commercial processing. We in the television industry would be faced with that extra expense if we tried to link all of our non-interconnected stations by color film.
Well, don't you think that now that the public have indicated that they desire larger pictures than 12 and a half, and that the tendency is to 16, 17, 20, 19, and 20, and even larger, because we're planning the 30-inch, don't you think they're going to object to going down, even if it is color, into smaller pictures?
I've had reactions from people that have seen our laboratory color television out at the plant. They say, well, that looks very nice on closed circuit with a wide bandwidth. We like it, except that it's too tiny a picture. They're accustomed to looking at these 19-inch tubes, and they just won't take a 12-inch picture or a 10-inch picture in color. They don't think it's adequate and don't think the public will buy it, especially when it's in a cabinet that's this size. Now, the problems of getting those bigger pictures in color are monstrous. We talk about this direct view color tube that eliminates the mechanical wheel, but that's a long way off yet. We're not ready to produce those in quantity. We've got these 30-inch black and white tubes coming along nicely, but I don't want to build a disc for it.
Doc, I think we might tell our guests here that we have been working on color for over 10 years now, and we would be very glad if any of you people are in New York to show you what we have done with color. We are set up and are transmitting today over our experimental station about 8 hours of color pictures a day, which I believe is more than any other company is doing. We can transmit pictures using the CBS system. We can transmit pictures using the RCA system, and we have several systems that we're working on ourselves that we can transmit pictures. And I think that it might be quite instructive if you're in New York to get in touch with Dr. Goldsmith, and you'd be very glad to show him some of the results that we are obtaining today. I think you probably are familiar with the fact that we are putting out a industrial color system having the same resolution in color, or even more resolution in color, than we have in black and white today. And we feel that that system is a wideband system, so we're not proposing it, but it shows the quality of the pictures we feel are necessary if you're going to have color develop as black and white is developed. If you standardize on a system with very limited resolution, I think the ultimate success is going to be nominal. I'd just like to mention one other thing that I just remembered after stopping talking a few minutes ago, and that is a article that appeared in the paper this morning titled RCA Color for CBS. In other words, I think a tip-off on just how poor this mechanical system is the fact that the FCC is trying to force RCA to turn over their color tube to CBS so they can try and fix the system up. Well, I think after they do that and then they change the standards back to those proposed by the industry, they'll have something. And undoubtedly, it'll have to work around that way if we're going to have a satisfactory color system.
Well, I'm pretty sure we all are very thrilled at the opportunity of hearing Dr. DuMont explain this very vital matter. I believe there are some questions that have been phoned in, and it's very logical that perhaps you didn't want to use your telephones while the gentlemen were talking to you. So we're going to see the questions that have come into Miss Lynn, and may I suggest you try again on the phone? Circuits have probably been tied up because there are many of you who have questions to ask this group, and just take advantage of this opportunity to put these questions to these people. The number again, Murray Hill 81471. Just call collect, and Ms. Lynn will be glad to take the call. Why don't you fellows follow me over here and get another look at Ms. Lynn?
Quite a few messages have come in so far.
Oh, there's something from Sam Carliner down in Baltimore, and let's see, Mort Waters. Thank you, Mort. Mort Waters in Cincinnati, and Van Konynenberg in Minneapolis. Van, how's the weather in Minneapolis this morning? Well, it's nice, isn't it, when I'm there? And Glenn Jackson has a call in here. Let's see. Sam Carliner in Baltimore. He said, first, congratulations upon approaching our 20th anniversary. You know, Sam's station was 2 years old today.
We sent our congratulations to him on his second anniversary.
Tell him I'll be down there tonight.
You tell.
I'll see you this evening down in Baltimore.
This wasn't a private wire. I mean, I think we're all sitting in Sam's office now. Sam said the message is so powerful and meaningful this morning. Why can't this TV closed circuit be made open to the public? They'd like to see this alone, as it would clear up much of the confusion. Sam, I think you have a point there. This was sort of a private party, though, at this stage. He asked a question, Mort. He wants to know, when do you expect color telecasting over WABD and TCG and DTV? Mort,
Our chief research engineer is here, and I won't be telecasting in color till he supplies me with something to do it with.
What was that question?
Sam wants to know, when do you expect to do color telecasting over WABD and TTG and DTV out in Pittsburgh?
Well, we are not planning at the moment to do any commercial color over those stations until such time as we see how the present system is taking on. We don't think it's going to get far, and we are sitting by until we see what results are.
It's a matter of timing, isn't it?
That's right.
Van Konynenberg. Van asks, what are DuMont's plans for daytime network programming? Mort, I think that's...
Well, I can say, Van, that we're have plans now for 3-hour afternoon programming in our new studios that we're erecting at this time. And Mr. Cadigan, who's in charge of the program, can tell you that I believe 2 hours of that is to be regular programming and 1 hour co-op. And I'm going to ask Jim. Jim, here you are. Why don't you answer that question? You're in charge of the program.
I don't think all of the fellows know Jim Cadigan. I think you should. This is Jim Cadigan, Director of Programming. Good morning. On our net. Jim, say hello to the fellows and tell them the plans that we're cooking up here for our daytime.
Well, yes, do that. The DuMont policy on programming for daytime will provide you on the network with programming that will not be of a type you would do locally. It will have a name value to it through the afternoon segment. We're planning a co-op program with name value in it. We're planning afternoon and daytime dramatic shows. We might use the term soap opera. We here at DuMont don't feel that that's exactly the type of production you're going to get. We think and look to a finer type of production. I think briefly that answers the question, Mark.
Thank you, Jim. They may call on you again in a moment because there may be more questions along similar lines. You might mention that we started daytime network program. I believe we were the pioneers in that. We started last December the 5th.
Well, Mort, I felt sure that everybody knew that.
Well, just to repeat it so there's no mistake.
I think we made a lot of noise about it, didn't we? I think Jim's right. I think everyone knows that we were the bell cow, if you pardon that expression, the bell cow of daytime programming. Incidentally, the question just asked by Van and answered by Cadigan or Commander Lowy was also asked by Glenn Jackson, WSPD in Toledo. Glenn, I think the answer was rather comprehensive and gives an idea of what we're planning. Mort Waters, the watchdog of the Ohio Valley Group.
Hello, Mort.
Hello to Mort. Mort to Mort.
Hello, Mort to Mort.
Well, now that we're mortared on a closed-circuit network, he asked what plans we have to improve our co-op program service. Jim, you and I have discussed this many times. Perhaps you want to just reiterate what we've said on our co-op shows. I know that the DuMont co-op programs are very, very popular and widely used because they're just a good deal. And Jim, you know the things that we've been talking about to even make them better.
Well, we've done several things. The first thing that we have done is to augment our staff in the programming department with a unit that will handle just cooperative programming so that cues are correct, that you get your cues correctly, that you get that service before you need it. The engineering department is also in on the problem. Changes have been made, technically in master control, to provide clean feeds to you. It's the DuMont policy to provide a clean feed, not to expect you to clean it up when you get it at your station. Another phase of this problem is covered by the training and the placement of coordinators in each control room in each studio, rather than just in master control. Their whole responsibility is to see that timing is as you would want it and that the feed gets to you in a clean way. We feel sure that this service will improve over what you're receiving now in the very near future.
Well, thank you. I'm sure that, Mort, you have your answer to the question. Sam Carliner's point a few minutes ago about the value of such a meeting as we're having this morning, and the suggestion that you made, Sam, that it could be opened up to the public. I believe you'll be interested to know that Dr. DuMont is planning, I believe it's next Wednesday, isn't it, Doctor, a speech on color, which will be on the network on the 15th.
I don't believe it's
15th?
the 15th of November, isn't it,
The
Doc?
15th of November, I believe there's...
Yeah.
I mean, it's
8:30 to 9.
8:30 to 9, Dr. DuMont will be on the network, and the matter of color will be broadcast. We're trying to clear stations right now because we realize this is a rather vital matter, and I'm sure you'll want to present Dr. DuMont, an authority on the subject, to your audiences locally. You'll hear more about it from our traffic department. They'll have the details and the time and cable availabilities very shortly. I believe we have some more questions that are coming in.
We should tell everybody out there that many of these questions which we may not receive or may not have time to answer, that we will answer them all by mail. Any questions sent in that do not reach us right now, they'll all be answered. So fire your questions, and we'll see that you get a reply.
I was planning to say that. Now you've killed the last act. I believe there are...
All right, if I'd have killed it first.
Let's see if Miss Lynn has any questions that have come in over here. Is there anything that's come in yet?
I don't think I have any here just now.
Thought I heard the phone ring. Oh, it's... Oh, I see.
Got some over there.
You give them to the page boy, and the page boy comes in my back door. This is a page boy. I don't know whether this is Jim's question. I don't know whether Jim wants to answer it now. John Rossiter. Hi, John. Awfully nice of you to call. He says, congratulations. Very informative. And he asked Mr. Cadigan, set a date when daytime programming will start. Jim, are you prepared to release our starting date on this matter yet?
I'd like to answer the question this way. The boys have all listened to the plans for expansion, and our daytime programming plans will tie definitely in to the progress that's made in that particular operation.
I see. The date then more or less ties into the
That's right.
progress of the plans. Incidentally, I'm sure that some of you station managers will want to the opportunity to have a copy of the statement that Commander Lowy made this morning. And if you'd like a copy of that, why, you can just write in, drop a card or a letter to me or a postscript on the bottom of some of the usual mail and just say, send us a copy of Commander's speech. And the statement will be sent out to you. Is that right?
Look over there. There's some friends waving to you, Bob. Right there.
See, I recognize him. I think that must be Dean Fitzit down in Kansas City. That's about as far as the cable goes. Miss Lynn, do you have a few more here? I keep hearing bells. I hope it's the telephone.
2 more messages in.
Oh, let's see. Oh,
We ought to have a prize here. This is the usual programs. When people call in, you give them a suitcase or something, don't you? We don't have any prizes today.
Oh, I want to read this one first, Frank. This is Frank. You want to say hello to Frank? I'll say hello to
Frank,
Barbara
how are
Snyder.
you? You're looking in now?
I'll say hello to Barbara Snyder, and you say hello to Frank.
Hello, Frank. Okay, that's what you've been doing right along.
That was a secret. He wants to know if we still want him to send a crew to Pittsburgh on November the 12th. I'll probably know when I talk to Sam Carliner tonight. This is a private conversation. Yes, I think so, Frank. He wanted to know would DuMont supply them as a station with a color TV receiver so they could receive color programs as they are now transmitted and show people in Cleveland how degrading it is. Hot. Anybody want to undertake to answer Mr. Snyder's question? If we would supply a receiver so they could just see how...
We'll have some receivers probably toward the end of the year, which could be made available, I believe.
I see. And, just show the people in Cleveland and what the color under the present system looks like. That's
Who's going to broadcast it?
Yeah, where does Frank think
Yeah,
he's going to get a color
where's he going to
show?
get his color show from?
Well, it might come in on the network, I don't know.
No.
Probably come in at a time where he'd have a difficulty getting people to see it, though.
Well, I think that just about winds up our session here. I think we've taken a lease on the cable
We got
this
a
morning to
couple
get
more
together. Are there
questions
any
here.
more questions that are coming in?
Yeah, I think so.
Any more questions coming in?
Don't forget, fellas, probably one of those things that just as soon as we sign off, you'll think of all the things you wanted to ask Dr. DuMont, Dr. Goldsmith, Commander. Why don't you just send us a letter and ask your questions in letter form? Send it right to 515 Madison Avenue here in New York City. Miss Lynn? See, after an hour I should be calling it Christine.
Question for Dr. Dumont.
Dr. Dumont, Sam Carliner wants to know what happens to the projection equipment when it goes from 30 frames a second to 24 frames a second. All his key personnel are watching now, and of course they're fascinated by this meeting, and they just asked the question, projecting equipment under...
Just good business for the manufacturers of transmitting equipment. We sell them new equipment, that's all. We or somebody else.
We. Are there others?
Bob, while they're coming in with some more questions,
Let me go out and see if we get some more.
Let me talk to Mort while you go get some questions here. Let's point back to this window here at some of the plans around the New York area. I admit that some of the rest of the cities haven't yet got this sort of facility.
Let's move this chair out of the way so perhaps you can see this.
The Empire State Building you can see behind this window has a new tower on it. I was up on the platform around the top of that yesterday, Mort, and they're really making progress. We're going to move our WABD transmitter up on that tower. There are 5 stations in New York, all going on that one tower. I think it's a kind of a thing that maybe some of these other cities will want to do to get the centralized broadcasting so that the receiver installation people have a simple job and can give the receiver owners a good focus point for getting the programs. We're going to be up there, we hope, soon after the first of the year on top of Empire State.
Aren't we moving in there in November or December?
Oh, we are already in there working hard, Mort. You know, we've got walls being torn down and new trenches being put in and new transmitters going up. But I expect these signals will start somewhere around the first of the year from this location. Talking about this, the general network, because I think a lot of other cities will want to do the same sort of thing eventually in planning these new stations that come in, and maybe even moving some of the existing stations where they find they've got ghosty conditions and want to get a little bit better antenna height and higher power.
That'll facilitate for them reception orientation of all the antennas to one focal point.
That's
certainly make it much simpler and better pictures for
We
everybody.
expect an improvement in the New York area over what we've got, and I think it'll follow through in other cities.
Well, I just recommend that all the cities start building an Empire State Building in their own town, and they can put that up there.
That's 1,500 feet to the top of that tower, you know. It's a long way
I
up.
wouldn't want to walk up there every day to defrost it.
I believe here comes Bob with some more questions.
No, I understand Roger Clipp is on the telephone. Roger, WFIL in Philadelphia. And I believe Miss Lynn is just jotting down Roger's question. Now, do you have it ready yet, Christine?
Well, I bet Roger will have a tough one, knowing Roger. Hi, boy.
Roger, as you know, this is an off-the-cuff answer. You had just hung up your phone. Oh, this is yours, Mort. When will the new building be completed, and where is it going to be located?
That's top secret. I can't tell you where it'll be located, but we hope to be in there in a couple of months. But I can't tell you the location. That is top secret, Roger.
Well, doesn't it...
But you'll see it pretty soon.
Ties into the statutory tenant laws, I believe.
Yes, there are reasons why we can't reveal it at the moment. Legal reasons, but you'll know about it pretty soon.
Well, I think that does it, fellas. I believe the...
Any more
Close.
questions?
No, there are no more
Yes, there's
questions.
another one just coming in.
There's another one coming in? There's another one coming. We've tied...
Probably someone calling up, know when we're going to stop. That might be the question.
Well, so does as soon as Miss Lynn jots it down. You know Miss Lynn's on our local daytime show?
Really?
Well, she is the fashion authority on the daytime program, too. And she helps us out with these phone calls. She is a
Good.
very versatile young lady.
She could just answer them for us. That'd really do a job.
I think she has the easy half of the bargain. She takes the questions and jots them down on the... I have the
Well,
second
there it is.
easiest job. I carry them in to you.
It's going to save you a lot of traveling, isn't it, Bob? You're not...
As I said at the outset of this thing, I'm not sure I like this element of it. I'm going to miss a lot of...
I just wonder if a
Airplane ride.
war were... If we were to have another war and they cut down facilities of travel as they did in the last war and the difficulty of hotel reservations, if a closed circuit of this sort might not be a very wonderful thing for the government.
Commander Laurie, I think you can really have some good military conferences that way. These closed circuits can really be made closed, you know, so that they're not broadcast at all, and I think they can talk over morale-boosting things of military nature in a great way over a television network. That's another use for the telephone cables in the off hours, you know.
Was that a phone call from a station, or was that just a bell ringing?
No,
That's
I
that's all
told you
that we
those
can
bells were
handle
ringing.
now, and we've come about to the end of our time.
Well, I wrapped it up, I believe, or I hope we've answered all of your questions. And if we haven't, why, as I said before, why don't you write us at 515 Madison Avenue, and we'll get an answer back. Now, thanks for being so cooperative, and thanks for coming. And we'll be seeing you.
This closed-circuit broadcast has been a production of the DuMont Television Network. This is the DuMont Television Network.